on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36. It's O'Connor and Company. We've got a busy Tuesday morning here in store for us, especially considering, it's the New Hampshire primary. Latest polls showing Donald Trump just under 60% going into today. We'll see what happens. Also at 8:05, Todd Bensman, Center for Immigration Studies. 8:35, Greg Pemberton from the D.C. Police Union. I'm Larry O'Connor. Hey, that's Julie Gunlock. I'd know you anywhere, Julie. Kevin Roberts was recently in Davos, thank you very much. And take a listen to what he had to say to the world elite.
It's laughable that you would, or anyone would, describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. It's equally,
standing up for it.
It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question.
Yep.
And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president is going to take on the power of the elites, which I mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here, the very reason that I'm here at Davos, is to explain to many people in this room and who are watching, with all due respect, nothing personal, but that you're part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y.
Joining us right now is Dr. Kevin Roberts, Heritage Foundation, fresh from that trip to Davos. Thanks for being here, and even more importantly, thanks for going there and speaking truth to power, Kevin.
Well, thanks, Larry. I always enjoy being with y'all, especially because of Julie, right? I mean, she's really the star of the show.
Thank
you. I told you I was going to get you back.
No, you owe me. But I got to ask, what was the mood like when you were you like the proverbial turd in the punch bowl there? Did everyone not pay attention, or did people actually come up to you and say thank you? That makes sense.
Well, after the panel, most of the people in the audience just scurried away. They were very passive aggressive. They had their audible gasps, and one European guy in some skinny jeans had a total mental just meltdown. But truly, it was almost very distracting. But a couple of the people afterwards came up to me. One of them, mild disagreement, but very polite, professional, and I enjoyed the conversation with her. And she was sort of the target audience, right? Can we persuade some of these people? But a little bit to my surprise, there were a couple of people who came up and said, Kevin, I have to come to this stupid thing every year because my spouse has to come. And This is the first time I've ever heard the truth. So on that ground, and also on the grounds of just representing average Americans, I was privileged to be able to be there.
Wow, I can't believe John Kerry's wife said that to you. That's great.
She's tired of it.
Oh, I kind of want to follow on that. I mean, were there any other speakers that had anything? Did you find anything useful about Davos? I mean, is it all just one note, or were there any variation on the message besides you?
President Milei of Argentina, I was going to say brought the house down. He didn't bring the house at Davos down, but he brought the house down globally with his terrific address the day prior. That was tremendous. But, even on my panel, I thought Walter Russell Mead, he's certainly a solid conservative and a good guy. Other than him, even on our panel, I thought people were going along to get along. And I just don't understand as an American, and particularly as an American conservative, why anyone, if you're invited there, would show up there and go along to get along. These people are our political enemies. And having any mindset other than that, considering they want to take away our freedom they have, in fact, I think is wrong.
Well, and I think it's fair to say that they're represented pretty robustly by a certain political party here in this country. And we're in the middle of an election, Dr. Roberts. Especially today, the day of the New Hampshire primary, where New Hampshire voters will have a pretty clear voice between who will represent the Republicans. I'd love for you to sort of comment on the tone in which this campaign has gone, or at least where Nikki Haley has tried to take it, having to do with national security. If you listen to what Nikki Haley has to say, and I know I don't want to drag you into party politics or picking a candidate here or anything, but I would like you to address this issue of the Republican Party's national security stance and how if you don't subscribe to everything that Nikki Haley represents right now with regard to the use of our military overseas, that you're in some way a coward or not in favor of a robust U.S. stance when it comes to issues that pertain to the military.
Yeah, great question. No disrespect to Ambassador Haley, with whom I talked before Christmas. I have great respect for her, but the tactical error she's made in her campaign is precisely on this issue that you have just mentioned, Larry, national security. Her campaign would be better suited for 2004 than 2024 for this reason. The American political right has moved on from that interventionism of 2004, point number one. And that's just evident if you look at the overwhelming percentage of Republicans who support the Trump-DeSantis national security position. But the second thing I would say is it really does address her tone, which is that it isn't just that there's a disagreement there. Gosh, I and all of us at Heritage respect that. We're trying to recohere the movement around a more restrained, but still, when it needs to be, robust American national security posture. It's that she's very condescending to those of us who say, look, we just have some serious questions here. Why can't we have a conversation? And what I've heard, to sum up here, what I've heard from voters in Iowa and some in New Hampshire, just checking in on policies and ideas, is that tone, that sort of condescending tone that you can't even dare ask those questions because therefore you're heterodox, I think really shows how out of touch that posture is.
Well, and I think that's, frankly, a refreshing approach you brought to the Heritage Foundation, where there are multiple opinions on things like this, and we as conservatives should be able to discuss them, debate them, and disagree without being like the left, which is, either you are lockstep with us or you are an enemy of the state. Yeah. So I really appreciate you being able to do that and leading Heritage Foundation in a time where I think our national security interests and our position, our traditional position as conservatives, is up for discussion and reevaluation.
Well, it is, and thank you for that compliment. I'll just say, and this is on behalf of my colleagues who've had to endure a lot of slings and arrows, including some folks on the right, that in March of 22, when we said, look, we want Ukraine to win, but we're opposed to this military aid package on these grounds that the three of us have discussed on your show before, we were just castigated for even asking those questions. Well, guess what's happened? Quick point here. Members of Congress, of the House and Senate, who did a little bit of castigating of Heritage at that point are now saying, gosh, y'all were right. We need to be asking these questions.
Jonah Goldberg weeps. Dr. Kevin Roberts, thanks for joining us, sir. Always good to talk with you.
Y'all take care.
We'll have you back again. It is 7:44.